We are live. What is up, swimmers and swimmers? Welcome back to the SwimSwam Breakdown. I'm Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, joined by the swim scribe himself, David Clossy from St. Cloud, Minnesota. David, thank you as always for coming on. Today, we're talking about the World Cup. That's pretty much it. Not a whole lot happened otherwise. There's some college swimming did happen, but today we're focusing on the international racing, and specifically what we saw out of Carmel. For the first World Cup stop, I got to be there this weekend, see it in person, talk to some of the athletes there. That was really exciting, and we're diving face first into it on this episode right now. So, David, I just want to hear from you first. Overall, what were your thoughts on this first World Cup stop in Carmel, Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love the World Cup. I need to just take the minute to be World Cup is a really great little circuit. I like the fact that it's, 3 stops in 3 short weeks too. So you can really just be immersed in that. I love the way that they do the stop winners, the overall series winners with the combination of event wins and the point scoring. So that way it kind of creates a decent bit. There's stakes in every race because of that, right? Because there's normally someone who is either fighting to win the overall series or someone who is trying to make their placement overall, and they're just a little bit of extra other than, oh cool, they won that event, there's some amount of prize money I think for it, which is kind of what you get with other in-season meets like a pro swim series, for example, that doesn't really have that through line and point system. I've always been a fan of
or
it.
like that
I
feel
also
of like, this is a training meet, so I'm just gonna like kill myself and swim 17 events.
Yes, I like that focus, that stakes for it. That's something that I think the World Cup is really great at. I also think that they're good at having a pretty tight broadcast for it too, and making sure that it's a nice viewer-friendly experience watching on the TV. And I also do, I want to give props to John Mason, I think is his name, the guy doing
I
the
was just going to,
interviews on deck. He is one, I think he's pretty good at asking decent questions, not just what did that feel. Normally you can tell he does a bit of his homework. He can ask some, kind of things about, you normally do this, but now you're doing that. Hey, sometimes we see this strength, you're doing that. I also think that he in particular, and the main reason I highlight him, he is really good, it seems like, at interacting between the swimmers and the live audience there. Really good at having the play off, get the audience to kind of, react to it, seem excited, probably does a good job in venue of keeping them very engaged, which I think also, as someone who was not there, was watching on screen, I actually came through on there and kind of made it feel a bit more like a, actual higher level swim meet rather than sometimes where you can just where it's the crowds and some in-season meets are pretty sparse, not really very lively unless there's like a big hometown name. But it felt like every single heat there was a bit of crowd energy that you could feel even on the broadcast. And so overall, I really like the World Cup, and this first stop was a really fun one. And of course, we have a ton of international swimmers coming over swimming, and we saw a lot of different where people are in their training, how seriously they're taking it, some off events, and there's just a lot of things to love for swim fans.
Yeah, so when I do want to shout out John Mason. I was actually going to I love that you brought him up
We're on the
just
same
at the top of
wavelength.
the broadcast. Yeah, exactly. I met him this weekend. I got to talk to him a little bit. Super exciting that World Aquatics has not only brought him on in the past, but he is on a retainer with World Aquatics through 2028, meaning he's going to be the consistent person at World Aquatics events talking to these athletes, which, as you were saying, he already does a fantastic job at interacting with them, I think. But now there's going to be that consistency, and he's going to be able to build that rapport with with these athletes. And so it can feel more and more comfortable, and hopefully that will help the athletes open up a little bit more than we're used to seeing them, especially like right after a race. They're huffing and puffing, they're standing on this podium, and we're expecting them to, be like, oh, tell us about not only your race, but your training and everything else that's happening. And I think he does do a great job at asking good, succinct questions, but also the more comfortable these athletes are with him, and the more familiar they are with him, the more that I think the more we as the audience will get out of these interactions, which is really exciting. Also shouting out Elizabeth Beisel, who will be his co-host with a lot of the World Aquatics events, as well as Natalie Hines, who, in light of Beisel not being able to be there this weekend, was John Mason's co-host, at least on Sunday. So those three people, I think, are all great for broadcasting, great for World Aquatics, and great for just swimming as a sport, because I mean, if you don't know who Natalie Hines and Elizabeth Beisel are, you got to do your homework for American swimming. Both Olympians, both great NCAA swimmers, both swam for the University of Florida, but like, they know the athletes, they know what it's like to be an athlete. And so they already have a rapport with so many of these swimmers. And then you couple that with the energy, enthusiasm, and now also budding relationships that John Mason has with them. And I think, yeah, we're in for some good broadcasts and good post-race interactions, which is really exciting. So that was cool to see at this event. But then also, as you said, David, just a lot of good swimming. Men, women, overall, what stood out to you? What swims most excited you or even surprised you from Carmel?
Ooh, yeah, there was a lot to like in Carmel. I'm gonna start with the women first.
Yeah.
And I do think overall, Gretchen Walsh was, of course, about as good as we expected Gretchen Walsh to be. She seems like someone who maybe more than any other swimmer, is really built for the World Cup. She's a fantastic, or at least when it's in short course, right? She's a fantastic short course swimmer, and a swimmer that can go fast all the time, which that's one of the number one things you want to be good at the World Cup, to be able to, especially when we're looking at someone who can sustain that through 3 stops. And if they don't want to do a massive training interruption to it, she can throw down at any time. And of course, she did set the hopefully first of many, as the stops go on, world record of this World Cup circuit, with lowering her own record in that 50 butterfly by like 0.2,
Dude,
which is crazy. I love the frame of reference of how insanely fast that old world record was, because how many just very talented swimmers tried taking that down. Douglas just missed it at the World Cup. Sarah Sostrom never got it. Renomi Kromagioyo never got it. Maggie McNeil never got it. Tori Husk never got it. Like if you look at the all-time top performers behind that, behind Teresa, also, yes, behind her world record, so many people came up just short. And Gretchen Walsh is now 0.66 seconds ahead of it. She has swum that event 5 times. All 5 of those times are number 1 through 5 in the all-time rankings.
That's insane.
And I repeat this on just a ridiculous amount, but technically that number should be 7, because twice at Short Course World she went out faster than that old world record
in the 100.
Yes. But officially 5 official 50 butterfly swims. She added 2. Her prelims and her finals were both under that old world record that no one was able to touch. And of course, she was characteristically fast in the 100 butterfly and the 100 IM event. She also owns the world record in. And that was super, Gretchen Walsh was doing Gretchen Walsh things. Maybe one of the more surprising swims. Shouldn't have been that surprising, but a pleasant, I thought maybe that happened. It was cool to see it in stop number 1. Kaylee McEwen going a personal best in the 200 backstroke, especially after not quite being on her best in the 50 and 100. Not that she was slow, just not a literal personal best. But, for stop number 1, for an Australian swimmer, that I'm imagining they're probably going to be some that are on the longer acclimation period for the time zone change. I'm imagining a lot of the Aussies that we've seen. We saw some really fast Aussie swims with, her, Lonnie Pallister, Molly O'Callaghan, just off the top of my head, were all impressive. And in my mind, they're kind of not at they're not at like full form quite yet. Give them another week, especially 2 weeks in that final stop. They're probably gonna be firing on all cylinders at that point. But the fact that she's already looking so sharp in that 200 backstroke, and she's going to be a real big threat in the other 2 backstroke distances, like we would expect. She's currently sitting in 3rd in the rankings right now. Gretchen Walsh is number 1. And Kate Douglas, being her versatile Kate Douglas self, picking up wins in the 200 breast and the 100 freestyle. That very common double.
We see it a lot.
Everyone does that, right?
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, a lot of great swims. It was just to add some context to what you said. Gretchen, after night one, when she won the 100 IM, she was like, yeah, my speed's not really there. Or she said something to the effect of, we've been doing a big aerobic block in training, so I feel fit, but I'm also kind of tired, and I didn't feel like my speed was totally there. Then after night two, I was like, what? I thought you said this was that wasn't there. You just PB'd in the 50 fly by 2/10. And she was like, yeah, I don't know. It's, I guess something's clicking with, specifically with butterfly. And that's also part of the reason she decided to drop the 50 free and 50 back on day one. Because again, she was like, I just wasn't feeling super twitchy and powerful. And also, as you were saying in the beginning, this is a very tactical thing, right? Like, these swimmers are trying to earn money. They're trying to win the overall World Cup standings. And so it's like she put her eggs in the basket where she thought she would be most likely to win her 3 events, which obviously worked out very well. And to the point of Kaylee McEwen, I can just confirm that she was saying, oh, yeah, haven't been sleeping great. Definitely still a little jet lagged. Definitely still adjusting a bit to racing the United States. I think, the article I published with the interview, the last time she raced was in the US was like 12 years ago, or when she was 12. She hasn't been in the United States in over a decade. So it's, it's a, I think, fairly new experience for her, as well as some of the other Aussies who haven't raced here ever, or if not in quite a long time. I think Molly O'Callaghan and Lonnie are both in that bucket as well, but didn't seem to affect their performances too much. I do want to, at least one commenter gave me flack for saying Reagan, for implying that Reagan was going to sweep the backstrokes. I was obviously wrong. I was high on Reagan because it was short course and because she's the world record holder in the 100 and the 200 and the 50, all 3, right?
Yeah, she has all 3.
I mean, sorry for putting my faith in the world record holder of all 3 events, but I stand corrected. And also, I think this stop just proved once again, must see TV anytime Kaylee and Reagan square up, because weirdly, Kaylee was 2/10 off of Reagan's world record in the 50 back. So it's like, okay, wow, her speed is obviously there. Reagan didn't swim the 50 back. She won the 200 fly instead in an American record. And then Reagan got Kaylee in the 100, but then Kaylee won dominantly in the 200. So it was like, what's happening here? Like, this is like everything I wouldn't expect to happen kind of did, especially after night one, when you saw Reagan put up a great 200 and Kaylee have a lot of speed in the 50, and then Reagan beat Kaylee in the 100, but Kaylee, it was just like, okay, well, this is really exciting. And both swimmers look to be swimming really fast and on form. So love to see that dynamic, but also, hey, I was wrong. Okay. Kaylee McEwen, we know it. She's very fast. But yeah, I think those were the highlights on the women's side. It's always really curious, as you said as well, just seeing what Kate Douglas swims. She was second in the 100 IM, and then first in the 200 breast, first in the 100 free. I also love that Kaylee McEwen is 0.1 points ahead of Reagan Smith in the standings.
Oh,
just to drive that wedge even further. But it feels fairly tightly bunched between Gretchen and Kate Douglas for those standings. 59.1 points for Gretchen in first and 58.9 for Kate Douglas. Kate and Reagan duked it out last year at the World Cup. And I think Kate ended up winning by 0.1. I think that's correct.
By a very narrow margin. Yeah. I think it was either 0.1 or 0.2. It was hardly anything.
Yeah. Which, like, she ended up winning the entire circuit by that margin. After
I think she had to come
stops
from behind. I think she won the third stop by like a few more points. So I think Reagan.
Oh, because she set the world record. in the 200 breast at the last stop, I think.
By so much, because she actually scored over 60 at that stop, which is, it was like 60.2. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll play this game with the women right now, and then we can move on to the men. But after stop number 1, who are you predicting is winning the overall World Cup circuit? Which maybe not that hard, but what do you think, David?
Yeah, I definitely think it's between Gretchen and Kate. You know, I don't think, you know, in third and fourth, Kaylee and Reagan are obviously going to be very, very fast throughout the rest of it. I just think they overlap, and so they've already ruined each other's chances of going 9 for 9 across the entire series, whereas that is still a possibility for Gretchen and Kate, and that buffer alone might be enough. I am going to lean toward, I'm gonna pick Gretchen, just because I do think there's always the possibility that Kate Douglas can come back and do it again like she did last year and bring it back up. I just think that there's on that Gretchen Walsh has a bit more upside, I think, to be higher on the points, that like the AQUA point side of things in her second and third event, right? You know, because Kate Douglas is going to be way up there in her 200 breaststroke, but then in the 100 breast, 100 free, or if there's another opportunity for another event, if those ones, you know, if it just makes more sense for some tactical reason or whatever, I think those are going to be lower than Gretchen. You know, if we say, first of all, pick Gretchen's best event, I guess, let's say the 50 fly, because that's the one she set the world record in. I think that her equivalent in the 100 fly and the 100 IM are probably, over the next few stops, they have a higher likelihood of scoring more AQUA points than Kate's equivalents. But they'll hopefully stay really bunched up, because I think it was really exciting kind of watching event by event and, you know, comparing each other's swims when it was Reagan and Kate last year. That was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. I think the easy answer right now is the current leader, Gretchen, for the reason that you said, more potential for world records. She has the world record in all 3 of her events that she won at stop number 1, which she did say her event schedule might change a bit moving into the next 2 stops. She was like, I think I'll swim the 50 back at some point. I'm not breaking news here, that I don't know that for a fact, but so we might see her in different events depending on whatever, how she's feeling, what her and Todd, her coach, decide to swim. But I would think just that might be a 4th or 5th event if she does decide to swim, for instance, a 50 back or a 50 free, because it just doesn't make sense to not go for this triple crown, right? And she's already won 3 events, 50 fly, 100 IM. She's pretty dominant in them. I don't see why she wouldn't want to continue earning money and trying to earn more money by winning those events. With Kate, she won the 100 breast, the 200 breast, and the 100 free in Carmel. 200 breast, I think, is a runaway for her. She wins that by body lengths routinely. And there is a chance for her to break her own world record, but not as likely. The 100 breast and 100 free, you know, we'll see if she gets better stop by stop. And I think she has a chance. The world records in the 100 free is 50.2. She was 50.8. That would be a really hard record to break, I think, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I think the 100 breast world record is 102.2, and she was 102.9. Is that right? 102.3, sorry. And she was 102.9. So again, it's not impossible to conceptualize, but it seems pretty difficult. So yeah, I think Kate could definitely go 9 for 9, but I think her swims are going to be a little less on the FINA point ranking than Gretchen's.
Yeah. And it might also be slightly harder for her to go 9 for 9. Like, you know, I was talking before about the Australians. She has Molly O'Callaghan in that 100 freestyle. How much faster can O'Callaghan get by the 3rd stop? I mean, it was about 3/10, actually exactly 3/10 between them in the 100 free here. If she kind of comes online a bit more in the, you know, in the next couple of weeks, then that could be a dogfight. And, you know, same, the 100 breast has a bit more close people behind Douglas compared to her 200 breaststroke. So I feel like it would still probably be an upset in the 100 breast and maybe closer to a coin toss in the 100 freestyle compared to, for Gretchen, someone beat
It
her
would
in the
be an
100
upset.
IM. Or now Kate Douglas did also, she had a 4th event. She did get 2nd in the 100 IM. Maybe
Yeah,
she pulls the upset, takes down
which
Gretchen.
that would be
That's the
really fun.
tactical move. She takes her out in the 100 IM, breaks that, and then is able to make up the difference.
Yeah, that would be really fun to see. And it's funny because especially I know in yards, they are very close, or have been throughout the years. And I think Kate has even beat Gretchen head to head in a yards 100 IM once or twice. But in meters, short course meters in the 100 IM, it seems like Gretchen has that event dialed in maybe a little bit more. Maybe it's because she gets to do more backstroke. I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting. I mean, Kate was only 4/10 behind Gretchen in the 100 IM in Carmel. And she had a monster second 50. So yeah, we'll see if Kate continues to do that. I think I asked her if she would, and I think she said she kind of likes that, especially because it's the 200 breast first and then the 100 IM. So she's like, it's a pretty manageable double, especially with the 100 IM kind of being that 4th event for her. So I think she said she will keep doing that. So we'll see if she can get the touch on Gretchen next time. Okay, that's the women's side for Carmel. Let's talk about the men. I mean, my standout, and sorry if I'm just being a star chaser, but Leon Marchand swam a lot and didn't win one single race, which is a novel thing to see. I wonder when the last time he swam at a meet, like specifically like a high level competition meet, because I think he went to a meet in Mexico earlier this fall, and I don't know what the results were, but I don't know if he won anything there. But like a real meet, this was a real meet, and he was like actually swimming fast and didn't win an event. Like I don't think he ever swam a meet in college and didn't win an event, right?
Yeah.
And like every international meet every like meet he's been to in the last 2 or 3 years, he like has won at least one event.
Yeah.
It's a
the
rare
last one
sighting.
Tokyo. Is that how far back we need to go?
Right? I mean, it's like it's uncommon, but I mean, he lost a race his freshman year in NCAAs. He lost the 400 IM, right? But anyway,
Yeah, but we're looking at when he didn't win anything. So
yeah,
he was one of
he
the
did
very
win
few
in that
like
meet.
2 titles that year actually too.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was really exciting to see. He swam an array of events. He actually missed the final in one of his events, the 200 free. The 200 breast, he got 8th in prelims. He almost missed the final in that day. Those were both on day 3. He ended up getting 2nd in the 200 breast. So he kind of like turned it around, but he swam the 400 free. He, in like, it was timed finals, but he swam it in the morning. And he was only 3 or 4/10 away from Carson, who won it. So he wasn't that far off. So it would have been really interesting to see if he would have been in that night swim.
I don't like timed finals for 400s, kind of for that reason. There's such a tactical race that being in the final matters a lot more than an 800 or 1500. I actually didn't even know that until I've seen. I'm like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. You can do 2 400s, guys.
I know it's interesting how they do that.
It's not their
assuming
decision.
It's a timing thing, right? But it's funny because one of my other highlight, Leon, it was cool to see him swim, cool to see him compete. Got to talk to him. He gave some insightful things. He's like, I'm training at Texas. You learn how to lose, and like you learn how to win, and you learn how to lose. Like I lose every day in practice, which some of the commenters had a hard time believing. But there are so many guys there. There's so many competitors there training, right? With Summer and Reagan and Simone and all the guys on the team, right? It's like you have to throw down and practice every day. So it was cool hearing him talk, and cool hearing his reasons why he only chose to compete at this meet. He wants to get a good block of training at home and just kind of be at home for a while he prepares for Euros in Paris this summer. But also Carson Foster's event lineup of 400 free, 1500 free, 400 IM, just really going the uber distance route and almost sweeping them. That was a real highlight. And he also, part of his strategy was, yeah, I only had to swim 3 times, like,
Oh my God.
because it was all time finals. So he was like, yeah, that was nice, not swimming in the morning at all and just swimming at night. So to your point of, come on, you can swim a little more. Carson took full advantage, which I really enjoyed, and it
He
was
was
fun
the
seeing
one
him
in World Aquatics. He actually got in their ear and lobbied for that, I heard.
right. He was like, guys, come on,
Hear
time
me out.
finals. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, seeing him swim the mile was super fun. He threw down a decent time. He got second place. So he had said he might try to go to the other 2 stops now. He's not entered. I'm sure they can make an exception, and I don't know if he will or not, but it would be really cool because he said if he does go to the other stops, he will continue to swim the mile.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Or I guess the 800 in the next one if he does.
Oh, right. Yes.
I feel like that could be an interesting,
that could be a good event for him. Yeah.
Oh my God. Carson Foster, Sam Short, and Dalen Sarkani in the 800.
That would be really fun.
Come on, Carson. Come on, World Aquatics. Carson, want to do it. World Aquatics, make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, they can definitely get him in. The powers that be can definitely get him in if that is like what he wants to do. If they don't, it would be a shame, honestly. But those were 2 of my highlights for sure. David, what did you like that you saw on the men's side in Carmel?
Yeah. I want to circle back real quick to Marchand, just to highlight, whether you want to go the ridiculousness that he didn't win anything, but just to specify, like you said, he was not slow. He swam in the 200 IM, the 5th fastest performance of all time. He just happened to have Shane Casas also going a 149, and they were just lighting up the pool. That was that was probably my favorite single race of the meet. That was, that Shane Casas is showing that he is, I think now between short course world championships, and now what we saw at this stop and we'll probably see in other stops, clearly seems to be in a much more consistent level of performance. What kind of everyone was hoping we were going to see out of Casas, back in 2022 or so, when he was showing so much potential, but it seemed like he'd be really on, really off, really on, really off, and we weren't really sure. It seems like he is a lot more locked in. And also, again, back to Marchand, he is now the 10th fastest performer in history in the 200 backstroke. 147.68 was trying his best to take down, like you mentioned, another member of that stacked Texas group here at Koch, who was probably the overall swimmer. I mean, it's an easy pick because he was he's the leader in the rankings right now and won that stop. But I'd say probably for across all his performances, the swimmer that impressed me the most was his backstroke sweeps, and then also showed up to get 3rd in the 100 IM just for
Why
fun,
not?
I suppose. And yeah, I think he's super well positioned to win it all with not only sweeping those backstroke distances, but also was very fast in all 3 of them. And I feel like in order to score consistently high, you need to kind of be like teetering on the edge of like a world record if possible, maybe at some point. And he was definitely kind of in that zone in his backstroke. So he's someone that really impressed me at this stop, and I'm also very excited to see what he does if he can kind of build through the meet, or at least get faster at the 3rd stop, because I think you've talked about last year before. Sometimes you see a little bit of a lull depending on the swimmers that are there in that 2nd stop. You kind of like the first meet excitement. We're kind of in the middle of it. Okay, last one, fast one, and then kind of like a reverse bell curve there.
There was, I think a lot of people were really excited about Toronto as well. And maybe this was just because I talked to Canadians, and so they were obviously very excited, but people were saying like, oh, Toronto's a super fast pool. And like you said, it will be the last stop. So there was definitely some buzz around it. So I am excited. for Westmont and to see how people handle the next competition just 4 or 5 days later, but also that we have some college team or quite a few college teams competing at that to add to give a little boost of energy as well. So hopefully we don't get that lull you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think we're already seeing that even at Westmont, we have like a lot of new faces that'll kind of, I feel like even if some swimmers that were there are a little, slower, and I'm not hoping or predicting that, just wouldn't surprise me a huge amount.
Yeah.
But the fact that you kind of that like usually like kind of injecting some new swimmers that haven't, fresh faces, new excitement kind of to disrupt the status quo. So not just like, yep, same people in the same events. You have maybe some more spoiler candidates in there. Another swimmer that's super impressed, Casper Corbeau. We mentioned Marchand getting second in the 200 breaststroke. That was because Corbeau managed to touch ahead of him there, and that was another pretty fun race to watch. And one head-to-head battle that I super loved was Ilya Karun and Noé Ponty in that 50 fly. Karun managed to get the better Ponty by 4/100ths of a second, and they were both real quick, 21:86 to 21:90, which is moving in a 50 butterfly.
Yeah, I mean it's cool to see that Ilya has like definitely made the 50 fly his event in terms of I mean every course really. Like yards, he has the top however many times of all time splits on the relay, right? Meters, he's now one of the fastest performers ever if he wasn't already. And then like short course meters. Long course meters, he's also one of the fastest performers ever. He's been 22.6, right? And it seemed like he faltered for whatever reason at World Champs. I think he missed semis or if not finals. He definitely wasn't in the final this summer, which when he was expected to be, but he's made the 50 fly. Like he's become one of the best performers ever in the 50 fly, no matter what course, but he's also maintaining this elite status in the 100 and the 200 as well, right? Like Noé got him in the 100, but then he turns around and wins the 200 also on the last day of competition. So yeah, Ilya's on a heater right now in terms of butterfly. And it's kind of fun to see how dominant Noé was last year on the circuit. And then to see him like pushed and it's like, oh no, that's not going to happen again this year because you've still got all this super elite competition around you. And so it's kind of fun to see the back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also just looked real quick for Ilya at Long Course Worlds. He was 9th in semifinals, 1/100th behind a tie for 7th. Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, he was certainly one of the favorites to medal, if not win the event. And so interesting what he could have done if he was in that final, but he's still been rocking and rolling since.
Yeah. And he's a swimmer that really interests me for the World Cup. Like I was talking about Gretchen, right? He's another swimmer that we've seen in the NCAA. He can go real fast, real often. I mean, he was just coming off of some ridiculous dual meet performances in the short course yards pools. We kind of knew that he was going to be a big threat here. And like you're saying, like him and Ponty, those two going head to head are going to be pretty cool in those sprint butterflies. And then the 200 butterflies also been pretty fun to watch out of him. That was a good swim. Trent and Julian tried to come up on Ilya for a bit, and then Ilya managed to power through on the back half, which, I mean, seeing someone who had won the 50 fly and then, well, they go on to win the 50 fly, but also they not only won the 200 butterfly, but won it from the back end of the race is an interesting note on the kind of his range in butterfly. It seems like he's really dialed in on you feel like he's always dialed in like 2 given distances at every meet. He's like super locked in those two.
Yeah. I mean, and the 200 fly was a very interesting event because you had Ilya leading through the first 125. And then you had Trent and Julian leading at the 150. And then you had Gabe Jett leading at the 175.
I forgot about that.
And then you had Ilya come home in 14.1, which was half a second faster than anyone else in the field on the last 25. And so it was just like, I'm sorry, what? like Gabe Jett ends up getting second, Federico Berdisso third, and Trenton Julian fourth. And those were kind of the four guys that were in the race in the middle of the pool for the whole race. But it was just like pretty crazy that, again, like you said, Ilya goes out and is in the lead, and you're like, okay, yeah, he's got the speed. He was second in the 100. He goes on to win the 50. But then you got these like other mid D guys start passing him, and then he passes them on the last 25. It's like, what? So really fun to see. And also just, yeah, keeping you on your toes. There's a lot of good competition going on. So let's play this game on the men's side. I don't think it's a super hard decision at this point. Hubie Koch is leading the standings by nearly 3 points, 2.5 points. But who are you predicting will be our overall World Cup winner at this point?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Koch. I do think that Corbeau can maybe close the gap a little bit on him. He's in second. It's 58.4 to 55.8. Mainly because Corbeau did not sweep the breaststrokes. He was just beaten in the 50 breast by 3/100ths. South Africa's Chris Smith got the touch there, 25.75 to 25.78. And oh my god, and Shimanovic was only 1/100 behind Corbeau. So that is so the top three are separated by 0.04 of a second. But so he could, that'd pick up another couple of points if he won that. So I think it's like a 2-point bump. So he would have been 57.8, which is a little closer. But the thing is, I was looking at the AQUA points on all of Corbeau's swims, and they're significantly lower than Koch's, because Koch is just closer to those world record swims. It's about like it would approximate to close to 0.5 per in a difference per event, which would compound to about 1.5 per stop. And especially when Koch has already got the lead, you are starting from behind and you try and battle back on there. And it's probably more likely that Corbeau would end up in second or third again in a 50 breast than would be for Koch to lose his closest event, which would have been the 50 back on multiple stops there. So it's definitely, there's a path for, and Corbeau's the next closest by a decent chunk, because then Foster, oh no, that's actually only 0.4, but Foster is also gonna be going up against some distance guys if he does get entered to those other two, which would make it harder again for him to try and find a path up top. So Koch feels very comfortable, and we did kind of see this on the men's side last year where Marchand had a decently comfortable lead, but Ponty was kind of lurking there. So it'd be the same kind of deal where we have Koch in a pretty comfortable lead, but Corbeau's kind of not letting him get too comfortable. He can't just breeze through. He's still going to need to put in some work there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easy to say Koch right now just because a lead of 2.6 points is like pretty sizable at this point. And he won the 50 by 0.26. Like, it's not like he won by hundredths, right? Like Casper, I guess, didn't, but like Casper was right there. But like Hubie won, and he was tied for fifth at the 25. Like, he totally back halved the 50. He literally negative split the 50 backstroke. He went 11.33 and then 11.32.
That's a 200 backstroker if I've ever seen one.
I didn't even realize that till I was looking at it right now, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he did say in his interview, like, yeah, I had several people come up to me and be like, "What the heck? I've never seen someone back half a 50." But I think the reality is he is just further ahead of the field in all three distances than a lot of his other competitors. Carson is tied with Ilya Karun for third, 55.4 points. And so I think those guys have realistic chances to make headway on Hubie, especially if he might slip. And I think the 50 back is probably anyone's closest chance to beat Hubie, especially with Leon not being there anymore in the 200 back in theory. But I don't think anyone was really that close to him in the 100 backstroke. And so one thing I'm curious about is that he did say he's only had a few weeks of real training. He was like, I think he took a break after Worlds, and then they went to that meet in Mexico, and I don't know. He's like, oh yeah, I've only been training for like 2 or 3 weeks. And like he was like, I felt amazing the first day I got back, and then it was just like I was in a hole, and like we were, working hard. And we know that Hubie can race fast pretty much all the time. But I'm interested to see if, like you said, David, he might get slower as the meets go on because he doesn't quite have that aerobic base yet. And so his body just might get more and more fatigued. I'm wondering if that might set up some scenarios where he's a little more vulnerable to defeat. But as it stands now, I think Hubie can race fast anytime. I think he's set himself up well to win that overall title after the first stop. And so it's kind of hard to see. And I think Casper and Ilya both have a little bit tougher competition in their strokes in butterfly and breaststroke than Hubie does in backstroke. So,
yeah. And sorry, were you saying that Koch is on only had like a 3 or so like week
yes.
training?
Did I say someone else's name?
No, you did. I was just double checking because funnily enough, because we're talking about Koch and Corbeau, published today. I just navigated to this when you said that. 'Cause I'm like, that sounded familiar. Published today on SwimSwam, Casper Corbeau on 3.5 weeks so far of training after illness.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't.
So they're evenly matched, I guess.
Seriously.
I guess he had like a string of illnesses that kind of kept him out of water for a bit. So he only had like a 3.5 week block. That was why I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's talking about Koch, but I just read this about Corbeau. What a weird coincidence.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and Corbeau, I mean, if we're getting deep in the weeds here, but Corbeau also recently moved to Belgium to go train with the coach there. Who he's trained with before in the past, before he made his stop at Indiana in like the pre-Olympic run up. But so he's kind of, he was dealing with illness. He's also kind of just dealing with relocating and living in a new place. But again,
now he's jet lagged.
And now he's jet lagged, but like, is he? Because like he's doing fine. So, but yeah, we could see Casper getting faster, could see him getting slower too. So yeah, for right now, I think Hubie Koch is the safe bet for World Cup winner on the men's side. And now, the third segment of this podcast, let's preview the second stop of this World Cup circuit in Westmont. So like we said, there's going to be a lot more college teams competing here, which is pretty exciting. We saw a lot of fast NCAA swimming last weekend. And this weekend, I don't think there are quite as many dual meets. So we'll see a lot of those contingents that raced in the NCAA last weekend, now racing in Westmont at the World Cup stop this weekend. So, for instance, in our preview, we talked about a lot of the UVA swimmers competing here, including Max Williamson and Thomas Heilman on the men's side, as well as Katie Grimes, Sarah Curtis, and Claire Curzan on the women's side. You have a strong contingent from Indiana, including Zalin Zarkani, Miroslav Kanedla, and Owen McDonald. We have USC's Mialeski brothers from Poland, as well as Mina Abraham from Hungary, and Justina Kozand, who also now represents Poland internationally. And so there'll be some depth in Westmont for sure. Even though, a couple of the top end swimmers like Summer McIntosh and Leon Marchand will not be there. If you didn't know, Summer McIntosh now out of the entire World Cup circuit due to an undisclosed illness. But David, what are you excited for? New faces, old faces? What are you excited to see most in Westmont?
Yeah, and quick on McIntosh, like obviously, hopefully she gets better because that is seems like it's at least pretty decently serious with if she's skipping out the final stop in Toronto. I was kind of like wondering, maybe she'll just drop the first two and then show up and win that Crown Buster bonus if there's any on the table. But obviously,
I love that they added that.
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited for that third stop because every time there's Triple Crown, someone is going to win prize money. But for the new faces that we will see, just kind of going down some of the new entries there. I'm pretty excited to see Thomas Heilman and Max Williamson just to kind of see more and more how their fitting in at UVA. And hey, maybe now our international swim fans will finally be able to have something they can compare against for how fast these guys are looking, because it feels like most of the 90% of the news that comes out about them going really fast is always like a yards time. And like, is that fast? I don't know.
Mhm.
And Anamoshka is also looking pretty, again, and yards have been looking pretty quick, and so maybe she'll be able to be an interesting factor, especially in that 200 freestyle. And Zaylan Sarkani is, with or without Carson Foster swimming, him versus Sam Short, and I think in that 800 freestyle is going to be pretty exciting to watch. That's one that I am super excited to see, just because Sam Short is obviously really good at that 800 freestyle distance and just was looking pretty good in the 1500. And Sarkani was just looking pretty quick in a 1650 that he just swam. And so he's looking good. Short's been looking good. They're both fast. That could be a really interesting race. And if Carson Foster is there to try and stir things up, then the more the merrier. And then Lucas Henvo could also be a interesting factor as well. He was looking pretty good at the end of last NCAA season with Cal, but is he still training Cal, or did he graduate last year?
Well, graduate's a strong word.
Yeah.
I think he is still at Cal. To my knowledge, he is still training at Cal. Yes.
So whether or not he'll be fast is like 50-50.
Yeah.
It's kind of my main point there. And then but both the Chmielewskis are going to be there from USC, but Krzysztof Chmielewski in that 200 butterfly could be pretty interesting with him and Ilya. That could be another good head-to-head matchup, and especially we're just talking about how interesting it was the way that played out already in Carmel. We add another fast swimmer in there, we might see like 4 lead changes. Who knows?
Dude, seriously. Yeah. The 800 free, I think, will be a little more exciting and bring maybe a little more intrigue than the mile did at this stop on the men's side. So that'll be really fun. Yeah.
You didn't like watching Sam Short just slowly get further away from Carson?
I mean, it was fine. It was okay. But I think having a good race, or there's a little bit more of a chance of a closer race here.
A close distance race is super exciting. Distance has like the biggest high to low gap, I think, because when it's like a super close race the entire time, it's like edge of your seat for such a lot. Like the women's 800 free at last World Championships, that's incredible. But on the flip side, when everyone has like a multi body length gap between them, even for like second and third, they're all like in their own little bubble. It's like, I get it.
Yeah. It's like, all right. Oh, fine. Yeah, like a few things I am excited to see. Thomas Heilman is entered in the 50 and 100 free, all 3 butterflies, and the 100 and 200 IM. So we'll see if he swims more than 3 events, or if so, which ones. Maximus Williamson only entered in the 50, 100, and 200 free. So hopefully we get to see some things from him. No breaststroke events, which he has been swimming in college, but I think that's more out of necessity for what UVA needs in a dual meet setting or for relay purposes. Claire Curzan has entered in 3 50s, 50 back, free, and fly, as well as the 100 and 200 backstroke. Adam Peaty is back racing. He's racing for the first time since Paris. It was really exciting. I got to chat with him a little bit. It was cool to just hear his perspective on where he's at with his career. He's trying to prioritize, his personal happiness and his life outside of the water and kind of balance that. Very Caleb Dressel-esque approach, I think, which is a trend we're seeing in a lot of older swimmers now, which I think is great. But he raced all 3 breaststrokes, which I'm pretty sure he was not entered in the 200 breast, but he did swim it, which was awesome. He swam it in prelims. He swam the 100 breast in prelims. I think he was 9th. So he didn't make the final in that, but he did make the final in the 50. So I think he was 8th out of prelims, and I think he ended up like 6th ish. And so, I think that's kind of encouraging. Good for Adam Peaty. He's doing all 3 stops. So I'm excited to see kind of what he can muster out of the rest of these stops. He is entered in the 50 and the 100. He's not entered in the 200 at this one. Maybe he'll deck enter. I don't know. But Yeah, it's just exciting to see him back in the pool as, one of the, if not the greatest breaststrokers of all time. And so, yeah, excited to see what he will bring to the table. But yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through these entries, and I think those are my highlights in terms of new faces. I'm obviously bummed that um, Leon and Summer, two of the best swimmers, also both training at Texas, wildly, are not going to be here. But I do think we're going to see. We have most of the event winners from Carmel going to Westmont, and so I think we're going to see a lot of the same in terms of just high action and high level of competition. Yeah, I mean, I think that's. Let's see. Shane Casas entered in 50, 100, 200 back, 100, 200, 400 IM. Ooh, I loved that Shane Casas swam the 400 IM in
Oh
Carmel.
yeah.
He was third, I think, behind Carson and um, he's Japanese.
Oh, was it? Oh, God,
But anyway, hold on. I can pull this up.
well, here, while you pull that up, that was another also morning swim that wasn't able to
Yeah.
be in the mix
Yeah.
of the final with, which was the second entry in my, oh man, I wish these weren't timed finals.
Yeah.
After him and
Amayuki
Marchand,
Matsushita.
which were both, yes, both third place finishes. Interestingly,
Yeah. But I mean, Shane was 4:03.1. It was awesome to see him do as well as he did in all three IMs. He won the other two IMs, and then he seems to be putting a big focus on those medley events, which is cool. He's such a diverse athlete that he can swim pretty much anything he wants to, but it's kind of fun to see him zero in. And again, the format lends itself to this, but it's fun to see him zeroing in on these events. So we'll see if he ends up swimming any backstrokes. I think he could certainly challenge Koch in some of those backstroke events if he does end up swimming them. But Kate Douglas entered in 100 free, 100 breast, 200 breast, 100 IM, 200 IM. So the four events that she swam in Carmel plus the 200 IM. So we'll see. Gretchen Walsh entered in 50 free, 50 back, 50 fly, 100 fly, 100 IM. Yeah, I mean, I think those are the highlights, or the people I'm looking forward to seeing the most. Carson Foster's not on the pre-scratch entry list. That doesn't mean he won't be there. So we'll see. Yeah. Any more exciting tidbits about Westmont for you, David, before we sign off today?
no, but I would actually like to propose a sink or swim to you, Coleman.
Oh yeah. Let's
Sink
do
or
it.
swim, do you think that they should change the number of scored events? Like the number, like right now, the limit is 3. Should that cap be changed? It used to be unlimited. Now it's just 3.
I'm glad you brought this up because you were talking about the format at the beginning, and I appreciate the format now, right? There's 3 stops. It's compact, and they put an emphasis on swimming 3 events really well. And I realize that serves a purpose. I don't prefer it to the old World Cup format where there was typically 7 stops. It was like a cluster of 2, a cluster of 3, a cluster of 2, something like that. I think maybe even 8 some years, but 7 or 8, truly the World Cup, right? It was around the world. It was like all over Europe and Asia, typically. Sometimes it came to the US. But and people could swim as many events as they wanted, and they would get points for all of them. And that's when we saw juggernauts like Katinka Hozu and Chad Leclos swimming as many events as they could and winning them all, or winning a ton of them, and then just going on to dominate the World Cup standings. And it was really fun. I remember at the time my brother was training at Cal with the pro team there, and he'd talk with Tom Shields, who would like make his living at the World Cup because he could go and do really well in a lot of different events and butterflies, sometime in backstrokes because it was short course and Tom had really good underwaters. And there was 7 stops, and like I think that is truly where people would make the majority of their money for the year, depending on who you were as an athlete. So I am. What was the format of the question?
It sounds like you're leaning swim. So you
Okay.
swim, add more scored events.
I'm swimming it, yes, because I think that is the fun of the World Cup. I appreciate seeing swimming athletes specialize and focus in on just 3 events. But as a fan, I want more swimming and I want more top athletes swimming more. Like, how cool would it be to see Summer or Leon swimming 7 events, right? And Leon kind of did that. He swam like 5. But, I want to see the top swimmers swimming a lot. When Katinka was doing this, it was incredible because she would swim upwards. Sometimes she would swim double digit events across 2 or 3 day meets,
Ow.
and win a lot of them. And it was amazing, it's just like win after win after win. And you don't have to be an uber versatile swimmer to do this. I know one year, who's the South African who used to have the world record in the Vanderberg, Cameron Vanderberg. He won the World Cup circuit, I think, just swimming the 50 and the 100, but he won it at like 7 stops, and so he won it for the men's side. But it's things like that really display a different side of swimming, I think, because it is short course, and so you have different athletes, being able to specialize. But I'm swimming it. I want to see if you can win 4 events or 5 events, I think you should be rewarded for that. That's my thought. What do you think, David?
I am also going to swim it, but in a slightly different direction, because I do kind of like the more focused aspect of it. The fact that it is a narrow scope is kind of easier to be like your top 3. I do think that swimmers that are really good at a couple of events, and who knows, maybe if you do it unlimited, and maybe you like kind of tweak the point values for things like that or something like that, maybe that's balances the math of it,
Yeah.
But I would like to see it bumped up to at least 4. I like the idea of having a cap on it, just so that way there is like a maximum. So that way the optimal strategy isn't to enter literally every single event and just be like 3rd or 4th and like just kind of hit those points as best you can.
Yeah.
I'd like to avoid that, because that might end up being the best way to game it, depending on how the numbers are. But 4 or 5. So that way you at least need to do a double, because I think that is a skill that should be rewarded, and something that would be interesting to see tested for the swimmers is, even if you're not going to win it, how good can you be on your second swim of the night? So that's why at least 4, maybe 5, is that way you can either choose between doing a triple on one night or 2 doubles and a single or something like that. I feel like that would kind of be the best of both worlds, between seeing someone foray into an off event, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if Jack Alexi was scored, his 4th event would have been the 50 backstroke. That's cool.
Yeah.
We would.
But she got 6th in, by the way.
Yes. And honestly, just made the final in general is kind of crazy, especially in a 50 where it can, with that many specialists, where it can be real jammed up real quick. Or we would have seen likely Gretchen Walsh in a 50 backstroke as well. Wasn't trying to choose just 50 backstrokes, but here we are. Kate Douglas would have had her 2nd place finish in the 100 IM if she swam the same lineup, would have been scored. I feel like adding at least one kind of test of how well an athlete can manage a double to be crowned the champion of a stop or of the series would be a cool way to keep what they're going for with the more focus, because that's probably a little easier to follow for a more casual viewer, or to like quickly explain that's that your best 3, or just be like, oh my god, they're here every single final. Even as cool as that is, I think it might be the better move to keep it with slightly more dialed in. Just open it up a little bit to make them do a double or 2.
No, I like that idea a lot, and I think if we're keeping it to 3 meets, I think that would be great because like in Kate Douglas's case, for example, I think she should be rewarded for swimming 3 events, but also getting second in a 4th event. Um, and I think like the cap of 4 or 5 events is fine. But I also, no matter what, I do like the scoring that they have because it's not just about um, how many events you win or place highly in. It is about the FINA points associated, like how fast you're going, which means that if you are specializing and only doing 3 events really well, you could beat out someone who is placing third in 4 or 5 events, for instance. And ideally, what I would want to see is again like 7 stops instead of 3 over the course of like 2 or 2.5 or 3 months might be a little long, but 6 weeks or not, sorry, longer than that, 8 to 10 weeks. I would want to see 6 or 7 stops, and so then maybe there would be a scoring deal that would maybe balance how many wins or how many events you're swimming with the FINA points so that it's maybe a little more even. But sorry, I'm getting way in the weeds in this. It's fun.
We can do like a whole hour-long discussion about different ways. Okay, let me throw something stupid. This is a stupid idea that I recognize is a stupid idea. Just to be clear to all the commenters, I recognize that this is absurd and I don't know how you'd make it work. I think it would be cool if there was some way to add a points like bonus or modifier. If you can determine, you maybe just like if it's outside their top, whatever, if they don't have like a certain time cut or whatever, but if it can be classified as an off event. If there's a way that it can be like, hey, this is your 8th best event, or your best time is below, 800 FINA points or something like that, AQUA points rather. This is now designated as an off event for you. Probably nearly impossible to make that work, but it'd be cool to be like, hey, why is so-and-so swimming the 200 breast? Oh, because if they hit the 1.5 point bonus on this, then they'll go above Kosh.
Dude, seriously. Yeah. It's like any way to incentivize parity and to incentivize top swimmers to swim more, I think it's a good thing. That's a good way to market your sport. But yeah, I would like to see athletes being incentivized to swim more and more events. So, I think some changes coming from World Aquatics. I think the World Cup format might be changing in the future. I don't hate the format now. I just think there could be more. And it's fun right now. We've got it and I'm not going to complain about it. So, but I appreciate the sink or swim. So thank you for bringing this to the table, David. On that note, I think that's our breakdown for the week. Thanks for tuning in and nerding out with us as we gush over the World Cup circuit. It is in full swing. The next stop starts this Friday in Westmont. If you're in the US, you can watch it on NBC and Peacock. If not, you can head over to SwimSwam to find out how to watch it because we have all the information there. So
those articles are so good. Just how to watch, insert me.
Yeah, we've got all the info. So head over there and